I'll call this committee of the whole meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. on Tuesday, February 24th. We experienced some difficulties with the recording, so going live, so hopefully we'll get those addressed and be back online right away. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory. The traditional and ancestral lands of the Nahinawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Otopimesawak Métis nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Before I move on to the agenda for the evening, I'd like to take a moment to send our thoughts out to our neighboring community of Hinton. They experienced a terrible tragedy, and we just want them to know that we're thinking about them, and we'll just have a moment of silence before we begin. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll move to the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Taylor.
I move that the agenda for the February 24th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th Committee of the Whole meeting? Councillor Wilson-Lair.
I move that the minutes of the February 10th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. We have no presentations and delegations. We have no bylaws and policies. We'll move on to our business items. This evening, we will have a session on Economic Development 101, presented by Brett Hawken, our GM of Corporate Services, and Crystal Chachka, our Economic Development Officer. Thank you both. And I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Tonight we're talking about Economic Development 101. And beside me, as you introduced, we have Crystal Chachka, our Economic Development Officer. So what does ECDev mean in Edson? So supporting local business, it's ensuring we're investment ready, trying to remove barriers where the town can influence, and using any land infrastructure and program strategically. For the sake of tonight's presentation, you're going to be taking in a lot of information. So we're going to stop after each section and ask council if they have any questions. That way we don't have to keep going back and forth at the end of the presentation. And for council's understanding, this is a summary of what 2026 economic development looks like, not necessarily a 3 to 4 year picture of economic development. So it's a summary of what our current programs are, how it ties back to budget, what our current economic development strategy says, etc. So council's approved direction. This is based off of the approved economic development strategy by Deloitte. That is both on the council portal as well as the town website. High level summary, all of our initiatives should try and do one of two things, either support local business or lay the groundwork for investment readiness. So how we deliver economic development, multiple programs, incentives, land and development readiness, business and investor support, housing and workforce initiatives, grants and external funding, and partnerships across the departments as well as agencies and local businesses. The multiple departments that we work closely with: planning, infrastructure, corporate services, and communications. So the type of programs. So under business support and retention, This would fall underneath business licensing is one of them, and Ms. Chachka will go into it at a later slide, as well as one-on-one business support and inquiries, and the security rebate program for local businesses. All three of those Ms. Chachka will talk about further into our presentation more in depth. Investment and land readiness. So underneath this, we have Hillendale. So this is land planning and prospectus development that we have built into the budget for 2026, as well as our town-owned land inventory and development readiness. So this goes into, we already have a land inventory created, but we do have further work on being more investment ready. So we know what land we have, we know what it's zoned, and we know the size of it. That's kind of a high level what we know. However, gaps that we're going to be trying to fill will be understanding how much gas is to it, what's the distance to a major highway, what's the distance to a major rail, how much water capacity can this land take, does it have access to fiber, blah, all that kind of stuff. Because when we as a municipality get requests for information from Invest Alberta is usually the main conduit. When they go out, those are the type of questions that we need to know, and we need to know it within a 2-week time frame. So realistically, if you don't have those answers ready, there's no way you're going to get the answers from your outside, your TELUS, your ATCOs, you're not going to get the information fast enough. So that's an area of opportunity where we know we can get better at, and that's something that administration has flagged. We don't have a separate slide for it, that's why I went a little in depth there, just to give you guys some background on that. Next is housing and workforce initiatives. So this is our housing strategy implementation and action items. We already did one presentation from Ms. Chachka around affordable housing. Based on that feedback, we'll be coming back again to another committee of the whole to go more in depth based on the feedback we heard, and then from there, next steps will move forward. As well as the rural renewal stream would fall underneath this as well, and we have a specific slide that Ms. Chachka will go more in depth in later. On marketing and investment attraction, we have the Choose Edson website and maintenance, which I will go into in depth at a later slide. We have health recruitment and investment information with the ARC committee. We don't have a separate slide, but Crystal, would you like to chat about the few initiatives that they're going to be doing? Or are we talking about it on later? Okay, we'll talk about it on a later slide. Then we have funding and grants. So this is identifying the economic development grants with a lens of putting it on things that we're already doing. That's not to say that we're not open to new opportunities. It's just saying the first priority is focusing on already approved council directives and not trying to go for every new shiny thing, as we know that there are costs afterwards if we do that. And it also takes time away from the priorities that council has already set. So we just wanted to let you know about the lens that we look at when we're looking for grants for any of our current programs or initiatives. Last is community and business environment. So we have a slide about beautification, the dollars that we have set aside in the 2026 budget, as well as informing council that we will be coming back later in the year to figure out the clear direction of how council would like to utilize those budget dollars for 2026. So grants and external funding. The specific one that we have right now is called the SCOP grant. And it was for $44,000 that we received it last year. It expires in 2027. So we are looking to utilize it this year, and we're looking to utilize it for the Choose Edson website. This will be going to doing website upgrades, trying to drive more traffic there, try and update it in a way that it can be not only more useful for businesses, but also more useful to market Edson. How do we sell Edson? What's the brand that Edson wants to be? That kind of stuff. So that's what we'll be focusing on for a specific grant, as well as any other grants that arise. We talked about housing grants at that committee of the whole meeting beginning of this month. Same type of idea of, yeah, we will be putting grants towards all of our programs that we're actively doing. Yeah, next slide. Oh yeah, this is the part where I stop and ask questions.
Any questions from council? Councillor Wilson-Lair?
Through the Deputy Mayor to GM Hawken and Ms. Kachka. This might be a really broad question in relation to grants and funding. It could be, anyway, in reviewing previous years' financial statements and noted categories for government transfers and grants, and the Alberta municipalities kind of push on some of my reading in terms of rethinking taxes and stuff like that. I wanted to ask about grants in lieu of property taxes like the GPOT that has to do with whether or not you could clarify if you currently receive the provincial grant in place of taxes funding related to provincially owned properties such as the hospital site and the school site and things like that. And I don't know if it's separated from the transfers from the provincial government or if that's something we've even looked into.
Thank you for the question. This is something I would have to talk to the finance department about and get the specifics. We don't handle that money through the economic development department. However, I believe that we do get it in some fashion, but that would be led from our CFO, McDonald, and we can get that information back to council at a later date.
I am here if you would like
Oh.
me to answer that question.
I didn't know that. All right. Yes, please.
Grants, they used to be called grant in lieu of taxes, and now they're called grant in place of taxes. And how it works is a municipality creates tax notices for most properties, but the province does not pay off of a property tax notice. You have to put together your notices and put an application into the province, and then they pay us grants in place of taxes. Yes, GM Hawkins is correct. It has nothing to do with the Economic Development Department. It has more to do with what their properties they own within the town of Edson that they pay taxes on as an application. They call it a grant. In the past few years, they did not pay the full 100%. They reduced it for a number of years to 50%. I believe for 2026, we're back to 100%. In 2025, we were at 75%.
Councillor Wilson-Lair?
I just wanted to thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Hillendale development opportunity. So at a high level I doubt that anyone in the town of Edson doesn't know what Hillendale is, but if they don't, it's a major town-owned land opportunity focused on trying to bring in either large-scale development or lot-by-lot investment. Currently, for the 2026 budget, we have allocated $200,000 to develop a professional prospectus. So the goal of this money would be to create some sort of package that would have all of the information for either a builder, a developer, or whoever wants to invest in this area to make their life easier in order for them to have all the information at their fingertips. The goal would be obviously to offload this to an entire developer, but we will see if we can make that happen. So really our goal this year is to, at a high level, do something and either fail, learn from it, pivot, or find a little bit of success and see if we can continue to reinvest in that success. So that's the approach that we're taking in 2026. And then we have another Hillendale slide, and this is where we can go to questions. So I will pass this over to Ms. Chachka, and she can talk about the home builder workshop that we had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hawken. So, as mentioned, I hosted a Hillendale home builder workshop, a Let's Build Hillendale event. inviting our local home builders, real estate agent representatives, as well as our local building suppliers. We gathered all together, and administration, myself, along with other members, were able to present different information on Hillendale. Some of it, it's all good. Some of it was just land use bylaw updates that happened in 2024 to inform them of any changes that happened on those lots with the zoning. We discussed the restrictive covenants that are on some of those titled properties there. We discussed the WSP assessment report that council received in January and went over what that looks like in Hillendale from their perspective, and a couple other items. So we won't go into every detail on what we went because there are some things we would like to bring back. But as a high level, we did discuss all that. They were really pleased that we had this event, and we had several members of administration present, so they could hear that we were listening to what they had to say. So we offered some educational perspective on it, and then we listened to their feedback, gathered all their feedback. We even did a little Dotmocracy board, so they could pick where their most desirable items were to kind of focus on. Yeah, so that was really great. And it was also one of the items from our housing strategy. So that is an item. The idea for that event is that you would have something like that annually with your home builders and to discuss, new or ongoing opportunities in the town. So one of the items of main feedback that we received was that the cost of building is just so high. The cost per square foot has risen significantly, the materials, some labor prices have gone up as well. So that was something that is one of the biggest barriers to building, and it's also something out of our control. But nonetheless, people are still building homes in other communities, so we don't want to just ignore that and pretend that that's, it's not worth pursuing on ongoing other items that are within our control. So some of the items that we heard multiple times that received a lot of dots in our Dotmocracy and also had a lot of engagement and conversation. We won't go into too much detail, but because we'll come back, but these were the highlights. Some comments on the current restrictive covenants that are on the Hillendale properties. The developers, home builders, and real estate agents were looking for more transparency on the lot pricing. Currently, it is not posted on our website, and it is in an offer to purchase scenario. So someone would approach us with an offer to purchase, and then administration would bring that to council to an in-camera meeting and then present that offer to purchase. So it's not maybe ideal, but that's just where we're at right now. Another item that was mentioned by multiple people was who is expected to pay for that $4.1 million cost to the infrastructure in Hillendale. And that was from the WSP assessment that you guys received in January. There was maybe an interest in some zoning changes to build more affordable homes. The current zoning there, so there's zoning and restrictive covenants, but between both of them, the housing opportunities there would be more executive style homes, which are not allowing a smaller square footage or affordable style housing to be built. And one of the last major items they talked about was the potential to split lots in order to reduce that house size as well. So some of those items would be coming back to council at a later date. And we can either stop here for questions on Hillendale, if there are any.
Any members of council have any questions on Hillendale? Councillor Holden.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Chachka. Seemed like they had a pretty good presentation there, and there was a lot of interest in it. Would a reduction of those lot prices in Hillendale at least give us some bit of a kickstart? I know that the reduction of the restrictive covenants has come up quite a few times, so it's kind of a little twofold question, I guess. If those things would happen, were any of the builders looking forward to that to maybe kickstart their own you know, their own builds or whatever. And then if the listing of the lot prices, you know, on our website, I think that would be a huge item to somebody be able to determine whether they were going to afford to build here at this time. So, thank you.
I can respond to that through the Deputy Mayor to Council. Excellent questions. So the lot prices were previously on the website. After we had many years of no lot sales, it became challenging to determine what market pricing was on those lots. So administration took them down because they became inaccurate, perhaps. So you're right, having those on the website would be helpful. We're still kind of trying to gather some information about how we would determine what accurate lot pricing would be, so that information is kind of happening in the background right now. And I think lowering of lot prices is always helpful, right? So it is one factor of many factors, so in Hillendale. So that's not the only thing that would be considered. You did mention restrictive covenants, and so those covenants, if council's not aware, a very high level, don't quote me on this description, because the description in land titles is about 3 pages long. So a very high level overview of what they are they are covenants that can be put on by a developer to, I guess in Hillendale's perception, is to make the neighborhood consistent and to maybe allow or disallow certain items. I won't get into the details on the specifics of those items, but when they are on a certain parcel of properties, in order to remove them or do anything with them, every single landowner has to sign and agree to remove them or make changes to them. So it's not just one body that would have authority over that. So that does present some challenges.
Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Trochka, more just comments for some clarification. I recognize that the development in Hillendale obviously has been slower than anticipated over the years, and that broader market conditions are a significant factor. With the infrastructure considerations outlined in the WSP assessment and the 2026 budget allocation of $200,000 for a professional prospectus, I'm interested in plans to differentiate Hillendale in a competitive regional market. And I think you've answered that through things that are going to come back to us in terms of pricing, servicing strategy, partnerships, or other incentives being considered to improve competitiveness and generate momentum. There has been mentions, whether it was in the during the housing presentation from the last committee of the whole meeting, in relation to offsite levy modifications, and I'm wondering if you could expand on that for us.
Thank you for the question. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lair and the rest of Council. Great question. So in 2018, Council, I believe it was 2018, it was around that time, Council paid the offsite levies on all of the remaining Hillendale lots through reserve transfers. So usually there are offsite levies still included on parcels like this. They have been removed from Hillendale, so the pricing that they would pay is just the lot pricing as it would be stated, although it's not stated anywhere. So does that answer your question? Okay.
For that clarification.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Chachka, you brought up that in terms of removing the restricted covenants, that landowners in the area would have to agree to that. Like, how close does a landowner have to be? Is it within the subdivision or within an X block radius to development? Like, how close do they have to be?
Thank you for the question. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Taylor and the rest of Council. Good question. So with Hillendale, there are 2 different zones of restrictive covenants. We have a Zone 1 and a Zone 2. So if you were to remove or consider removing any restrictive covenants in a zone, it would have to be agreeable by all of the landowners in that zone. So right now, Hillendale has 2 separate zones in it. Yes, Hillendale Phase 2 has 2 separate zones of restrictive covenants.
Thank you so much. Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, I'll let you continue. Thank you.
So for the housing strategy, so this was council direction set in 2025. So why does it matter? It talks to our workforce attraction, it's our investment readiness, and our business growth capacity. So in 2026, we set aside $10,000 for 1 to 3 action items within the housing strategy. As Economic Development Officer Chachka said, we have successfully done part of one of the action items through that workshop with our developers, but we're looking at continually trying to get tangible action items. That's the goal from the housing strategy, is what can we move forward that has a tangible effect on the community? Getting less away from developing studies and that, and more so how do we actually bring real economic development that people can see for the town of Edson. So we talked about it at February 10th, and we will be coming back at another council meeting or committee of the whole meeting this year in Q2. We talked about how we'll be focusing on doing 1 to 3 tangible actionable items with that $10,000 this year. And then you can go to the next slide because it's housing and grants. So we'll be monitoring federal and provincial housing grants. They really focus on the shovel-ready, achievable projects. We'll be bringing forward opportunities to council as they arise. The goal of grants is to accelerate existing goals, not create new ones, as I previously stated. And I'll pass it over to Crystal to supplement.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the initiatives from the housing strategy is to promote funding opportunities and existing grants. So another item that came up from our home builder session was that if there are grants available, that maybe we could pass them on to them. So they're actually asking for this information, and the housing strategy is also recommending that we provide them with that information. So this is a way that we can be the conduit to provide them that information directly, as well as through social media as well, so homeowners can know. So we need the homeowners to know about the grants that exist, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be directly involved with it. The home builders need to know they exist so they can tailor their resources into those ways to make it economically viable for the homeowner as well as for themselves. And there's a way for us to increase the quality of our housing stock by matching grants that will increase the value and the quality of our housing stock right now. We do have a little bit of an older housing stock, if you're aware, through this housing strategy, and this is one way that we can work towards one of those tangible action items, as well as create some value in the community. Any questions on housing strategy or housing in general?
Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Chachka, I thank you for this, and thank you for the presentation a few weeks ago. Certainly, I've been thinking about that presentation, and the challenges that we have is that we have lots of homes for sale. I'm sure we all know this. It's just the types of homes for sale, and are they overpriced, and those types of things. People are trying to sell their homes at what the market has dictated is the price, right? Unfortunately, some of these homes may be priced higher than what people can afford, and require investment in terms of renovation. So with that, and I know we're gearing towards building new homes, but are there grants available to assist people in purchasing homes or assist people in renovating homes? Because if we already have a stock of homes that are for sale, the challenge is we build new homes, are we just undercutting those that are trying to sell their homes? And then they'll never be able to sell their homes because we've undercut them. So there's just a slight directional change in terms of helping those to purchase homes or helping those to renovate? Are there any grants or opportunities for that at this time?
Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Taylor and the rest of Council. So I've been preoccupied with other items since then, but I'm aware there are some grants in the past as well that can contribute to increasing the quality of your housing stock through like energy retrofits and things like that. I've definitely seen things along those lines. Some of those can require different amounts of investment from the homeowner as well, though, right? So that's something to consider. Another item that I hadn't mentioned yet and was in the housing strategy on several spots was the accessible housing for seniors. So even if so within our existing housing stock, a lot of the houses have stairs going up to the house, right? And then there's stairs when you get into the house. For an aging population, that is less desirable, and there is a need for more accessible type homes. So when you come from the sidewalk or from the curb, you can go directly into a door without stairs, right? That is something that is noted in the housing strategy on several occasions. And then once you're in the house, that there's no stairs, right? So someone with mobility issues can easily walk around or access the entire house. So if someone were to retrofit an existing home with stairs, it still may not meet the need of certain demographics right now. So doesn't mean that there's not value in that. It's just, it's not a catch-all for everybody by only focusing on renovating.
Just to supplement that a little bit, when our goal to her initial point of increasing the quality of the housing stock is we do want to promote these types of grant opportunities for the public to know as well. So when we find grant opportunities that will help a developer or builder for not only building new, but also for retrofitting, we'll send that to that group that we are now developing contacts with, but we'll also be able to utilize our social media channel and push out those type of retrofit grants so the public can be aware of them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we can, as the saying goes, you can lead the fishermen to water. They still need to put the rod in, right? So, but we know that we can get better at it. We know it's an opportunity, and we have the social media channel of our 10,000 followers. Why not push out grants when we're aware of them? So we're going to get better at that as well.
Any other question on housing and grants? All right, thank you so much. Oh, pardon me, Councillor Holden.
Through the Deputy Mayor to administration, just a quick question and maybe a clarification. When we're monitoring housing grants, are we primarily looking only at grants that are for the builders? Or are we also able to access information and make it available to the individual who might have a shovel-ready project that they were thinking of building, but if an available grant to them directly might push them over the edge to actually start the build? Is that possible? Thank you.
All of the above, both. When we're aware of new grant opportunities, regardless of who it's going to benefit, if it will benefit someone in the community, we are going to try to get this out to as many people as possible.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, we'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so this slide is about business licenses. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware or not. So this year, administration undertook a new process towards our business licensing. Previously, for the past several decades, we have been issuing invoices, asking for payment, and then businesses come in, make that payment, and we never really asked for anything additional. And because we didn't have the capacity to do that or the mechanism. So our files have been in many different areas and it has created gaps in our business licensing process. So this year with help of the government's framework software, you may have heard of that, we have developed a form that all of our business renewals and new business applications go to that form and fill it out. So it's your name, your address, phone number, contact information, a couple details about your business. And then that goes to a portal that I can access and review. And then after I've reviewed it, then we ask for payment. That also follows accounting best practices. And once we receive payment, I will handle that business license again. And this year, in an effort to update all of our records, we are sending all of our businesses that are either brick and mortar or home-based or that operate out of our town to our planning department. And our planning department has been working tirelessly at gathering the records for each and every business. So if that business has deficiencies or maybe they're not meeting all the planning requirements, they're outlining that on an individual, unique basis, which can serve quite a few things. So if that business wanted to sell their physical location, it would provide them with the information they need to make that sale better and to do that prior to a sale. It would help with succession planning. If they wanted to sell, if a leaseholder wanted to buy the business that they're renting from, it would provide them with the information that is necessary to make that business in compliance from our planning perspective. So that's something that we've been challenged for several years, is our businesses are moving either from one location to another, buying properties, and things aren't in compliance, and it's been troubling for those that are going through that process. So right now we are informing and educating them on every single property, which is cumbersome. But it's worth it. It will be very valuable for our entire business community to have the information that they need to operate their business. So once it gets done with planning, then we have been sending those approvals out. To be business friendly, we are approving deficiencies or non-compliances, knowing that they're out of compliance, and just providing them with that educational perspective right now. Any business that applies after or submits their application for renewal after February 15th, we're requiring them to be in compliant before we issue them a sticker or a business certificate. So that's kind of the process that we've gone this year. And we've had lots of feedback. So initially, naturally change is challenging. But overall, once we've explained why we're doing this, and I guess I should explain to council why we're doing this. Sorry, I should have started there. So administration recognizes that we're not in compliance with our business license bylaw, and this is going to help us move towards compliance. So one of the main items in the business license bylaw that we're not quite meeting is to ensure the safety of the employees, the safety of the patrons, and the safety of the building from a planning perspective. So that's kind of the whole reason to kind of go down this big path of effort in the business licensing. So, and through that, there are a couple things that will open administration to different opportunities that we didn't have before. For each business, we're getting the NAICS code. It's a federal work classification code, which now if we have grants that are available and we know geared towards certain industry, we have the ability through this database that all the business licenses are a part of, to access their emails and the industry that they're part of. And if there's opportunities for those industries, there's ways that we can communicate with them now, just like that, which we never had that before. Maybe not quite the snap of a finger, but within a day or two, right? That we can do that without looking through files, paper files, like it would have been previously. So that's something that I'm quite excited about, that we'll have access to the NAICS codes and understand our business community better and which industries they're serving. So right now we make assumptions, now we'll have the data and we'll be able to bring that back to council as well. So. Any questions on business licensing?
Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to administration. Forgive me if this is just my ignorance, but I need this for clarification. How does the new business licensing, or does it, affect building owners? So the businesses are in buildings that they're leasing. Does that fall all on them to bring buildings into compliance? Or is there some broader thing that happens with maybe the building owners. And maybe that doesn't, the building owners actually don't have anything to do with it. That's what I'm kind of wondering about.
Sure. Thank you for the question through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lear and the rest of Council. So right now, if a building was out of compliance, there may be many ways that it could be out of compliance. Something that I've seen come forward are fire inspections. So so that's something that's also being triggered, is that if we don't have the data on a fire inspection for that business, we're noting them deficient, and then that will come back to council at a later date after we can determine a strategy internally to come forward. So to get back to your question, if there was a business out of compliance and they lacked a fire inspection, and we asked them for that fire inspection, and there was information on there that required some upgrades to that, that would have to be dealt with between the leaseholder and the leasee. So if, depending on how their contract would be written up, they would have to refer to that. Yeah.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to Administration. So when you speak compliance, when it comes to businesses, and if they're compliant, does this mean that they are compliant to the year the building, say, was built? Or, like, for example, like, we have buildings in this community that are over 100 years old. They wouldn't meet any of the codes of today, but they were built in a different era. So does that mean that they're judged and compliant to the codes and the rules of that day, or are they judged and compliant to today?
Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Pisichny and the rest of Council. So I'll have to just get GM Kitlett's confirmation, but it's my understanding that they would be judged on the year that they were built and what building codes were at that time, I believe. And then I know there was some comparison to our land use bylaw, but there are some, yeah. I'll let GM Kitletts finish this.
GM Kitletts.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So it depends. So that it doesn't. So it only so there's safety code compliance, which is triggered by renovations. So if the building isn't renovated, the way it was when it was built is fine. But let's say it was a building that was built for a sporting goods shop, and then a new business came in to run a restaurant. Well, a restaurant can't run without meeting safety code and fire code approvals and health approvals. So they renovate that building. They have to bring it up to current code. But there's also land use compliance that we're talking about here. When I first got here, I remember coming to council to talk about this because I saw this as an issue. What we're finding, so it is the owner who has to bring the property into compliance. But here's what we're finding is a new entrepreneur comes into town and wants to open up a business. They go talk to a landowner who has a space. The landowner says, sure, sign a lease. So they get into a contract to sign a lease for whatever that dollar figure is a month. Then they come to apply for a business license. And then we tell them, well, in order for you to run this particular use out of this space, you have to get a development permit or building code permits. Well, now this poor new young entrepreneur trying to establish a business in town can't open up. And they're delayed. And they have to go through all this process because they didn't know to ask those questions before they entered into a lease agreement with a landowner. That's tough when you think about it. Someone trying to invest in our community and make some money, and they run into this stuff. So it is challenging, and I think we're trying to do it in a way that isn't prohibitive, but it's also important to have these things in compliance for all kinds of reasons Ms. Chosker already said about, and a lot of it is to do with emergency response and fire as well. Our responders need to know what's in those buildings, and a lot of times we don't. So hopefully that helps answer the question. So it depends. No renovations, building code is fine. But as soon as you start to renovate, new codes apply.
Just for myself, I'm just wondering, have we had a lot of business owners with a lot of surprises? Is this a fairly small number of those who are finding a lot of compliance issues? I don't need an exact number. I'm just kind of wondering in general.
Thank you through the Deputy Mayor to Council. So I suspect some of the businesses are surprised. I know our planning department are writing these letters in a way that is letting them know at this point, this is for educational reasons and that we're not initiating enforcement. But if they were to renovate their building, it may trigger some things that they should be aware of. So that's noted in the response, as well as if they were to sell, that it would also trigger some things for their space as well. So there may be a surprise just to receive that because we've never provided that information. If a business is currently wanting to sell their property, they may be more surprised than others because they are right in the middle of that process and maybe finding out that information, not at an opportune time.
Thank you. Any other questions on business licensing? Councillor Schramm?
Yeah, through the chair to administration, just a quick comment or question. And again, we understand the importance from a council and administration of the importance of having business license of a lot of the things you've said. But I guess my question is to our business community, and I've had this question asked me, what added value is there for the business community to make sure that they're getting their business license? If you can share that.
Thanks through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Schramm and the rest of Council. So the value in a business license, so there's a couple things. So there should be a certain level of confidence in the community when you go to a business and that you have an expectation that it's safe to be in, that it's safe for you, it's safe for the employees, whoever they may be, and also safe for your neighboring business. So I did have a business that asked me about this. Why does it matter if I have a fire inspection? What's the big deal? I said, you might understand business safety and you may understand access and egress, but how do you know that your neighboring business doesn't, or that they do as well? If they are not in compliance and if they don't have a safe building and a safe place and their building starts on fire, how is that going to affect your business, right? And so there is a safety component to the employees, the patrons, and the building structures themselves. So all of that ties together. And when we talk about the planning, as GM Kitlitz mentioned, if first responders needed to come in, they would be aware of information about that location ahead of time and also how to get in. Once they go through a fire inspection process, there's communication to the fire department on how to access that building in the event of an emergency. So it may not feel as though it is an immediate benefit to a business, but as an entire community, there is a combined benefit, and I guess that's probably where it is.
Thank you. See no further questions there. I'll let you move on. Thank you.
So the Choose Edson website. So this website falls underneath the economic development portfolio. Its original purpose for it getting created was investment attraction and health recruitment. So the ECDEV role is to ensure that the content is accurate and coordinate updates with communications. However, we know that there's a larger opportunity here to better market Edson as well. So it doesn't necessarily need to just be tailored to trying to attract outside investment as well as health recruitment, as that is also getting supplemented from the ARC committee. However, we all know that outside investment does their market research. We can have the information readily available, but if people want to come here, they're going to come here. So we can keep our information there. We're not going to take that away from this website. It's just looking about how can we market Edson to be a more welcoming place? How can we make the perception and brag about our community once you get off the highway and the trails and the beauty of this place? And that's kind of the talk about stories of people who moved here 15 years ago, saying they were going to only stay for a couple years and now they built their entire life here, that kind of stuff, of getting those testimonials. So that's kind of the pivot of what this SCOP grant is around, is how can we encourage more people to come to Edson. So any questions on the Choose Edson website and the goal of utilizing this SCOP grant.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to administration, I've always appreciated the Choose Edson website. I think it's a great feature to try to attract people to our community. Just where are we at in terms of getting this website into the hands of other people that are putting job postings out? So I know the art committee originally sat and created the sort of had the idea of the website or pushed the website for AHS applications for doctors. To which, side note, as we found out at our last ARC meeting, is that when we talked to one of the recruiters, they said, hey, you have a great website. Using that to attract new doctors is a great idea. To which we said, we sent that to you. Shouldn't you be putting that on your job ads? So we're going to be revisiting that with the doctor recruitment. For some reason that has been dropped, and we'll have to pick that back up again. But outside of AHS and other jobs, are we reaching out to school divisions? Are we reaching out to businesses that when they put jobs out, we're attaching a QR code, we're attaching this website to it to try to market that? Is that the plan for the future, or have we already started to try that?
Thank you through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Taylor and Council. Great question. So I don't believe that we have done that on a large basis. I think we have verbally talked to certain businesses about that and have informed them of the Choose Edson website. I think it's certainly an opportunity and probably wouldn't be that challenging to coordinate now that we have all the emails of all of our businesses in our communities. So I think there may be an opportunity there. I will just supplement GM Hawken with the health recruitment. So as Councillor Taylor mentioned, ARC met recently, and one of the initiatives that they'll be doing in consultation with the Choose Edson website in the town is creating a skills day that RPAP, which is the Rural Health Professions Action Plan group, performed last year to 40 of our local students, and they brought them to the hospital, did a bunch of, spent the day there doing a bunch of different, healthcare things, healthcare initiatives, suturing and doing all sorts of things. But they had lots of fun, and the idea is to encourage more homegrown healthcare workers. So that will be, RPAP is unable to do that every year, so the ARC members decided to just take it upon themselves and start that. So there will be an event at the end of March, also geared towards our local grade 9 to 12 students. And in that health recruitment part, we've also invited about 7 to 10 Northern Alberta Medical Program students from Grand Prairie at the U of A campus that has recently opened up there for rural doctors. So a few of them will be coming to Edson and assisting for the day alongside our local physicians who've helped out in the past on this program. So that's just a kind of a supplemental to that health recruitment. And I will be sure to let them know about the Choose Edson website.
Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the Deputy Mayor to administration. I'm just wondering, will the website include amenities and things like that? Will they showcase our parks and recreation and our surrounding nature areas and things like that as a selling feature? And also, is there any push to actually showcase some of all of our businesses here and there that we already have as a vibrant place to be able to eat and to socialize and gather and crafts and just all those kinds of things? Or is it not going to be that specific? I'm just wanting some clarification on that.
So that type of work would come through the upgrades through utilizing this SCOP grant. It's definitely going to be geared towards showcasing parks, recs, amenities. That I can say yes to. How we showcase specific businesses and that type of stuff, I don't want to commit to anything like that. But yes, that's what this grant is going to be geared towards, is showcasing the amenities of Edson.
Thank you. Any further questions on the Choose Edson website? All right, thank you so much for your work on that. I'll let you continue.
So the rural renewal stream, my apologies. The rural renewal stream, so I just brought that forward to council a few weeks ago, an update on that. So there's not a lot of additional information to provide, but there are a couple items. Council did ask that we reach out to the businesses and communicate with them about the current changes that have happened with the province. So we have completed that. I've reached out to all of the employers requesting, so providing them first an update from what the province has mentioned, so they're aware of those changes. And also 2 items of feedback I was looking for. One was to confirm whether or not the employees that have previously issued, or sorry, that have previously received endorsement letters, whether or not they're still employed by that employer, as well as if any significant changes have happened to the business. So I've received, about half the businesses have responded so far. And there are a few employees that are no longer there. So that's something that, just based on the program, we can revoke those letters because they no longer qualify to have that endorsement letter based on their employment status. And information about the employer is necessary. If there was a change in ownership, that would require a new endorsement letter to be issued. So if the employer or changes, or if the business sells to a new owner, even if it's nothing changes about the business, that would trigger a new endorsement letter to be issued, and otherwise that individual would not qualify later on in the program. So, any other questions about the rural renewal stream?
Don't see any questions. Thank you for work on that.
So I will continue on. So council approved the security rebate program last year, and administration opened that up, I believe it was in November. To date, we have had 4 businesses complete and have had successful grant responses sorry. Let me just try that again. We've had 4 businesses that have been successful recipients of the Business Security Rebate Program grant. We will have 2 additional media pushes coming forward in March as well as in April to get that information out there. I think the timing of it was probably not ideal, going right upon like a busy Christmas season. So we will put some more effort out there to ensure the businesses are aware of that. Any questions on the security rebate?
Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to administration, when we have the 2 more media pushes, I know there's only 4 businesses that have been successful so far, but will you be requesting feedback that maybe could be expressed to businesses that are considering the program, particularly if it's positive feedback, to get that from them to be part of that process?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lair, I haven't reached out to the businesses to see if they would be willing to provide additional positive feedback, if that's what you're asking. The ones that I have visited and provided that were successful at receiving the grant were quite happy. Some of them were able to take advantage of sales of new camera equipment. Some had cameras installed by an installer, some did it themselves, so they felt quite happy with a $1,000 rebate based on what they were able to increase the security on their business. It was very well received.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I think you answered my question. I was curious to know how much the grants they received were, which is $1,000, I guess, and we put forward it was $10,000. Correct, for this pilot project, right?
15.
15,000, my apologies. Okay, just wondering how much money we had left and could push out. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no further questions, I'll let you continue.
Beautification. So, in the 2026 budget, we have $50,000. How these funds are going to be utilized will be determined later by council. We'll be bringing forward options of different ways. There's previously Edson has done this and other communities have done it where call it a storefront beautification program of we put in 5,000, you put in 5,000. But there's other ways to utilize this money as well as the specific areas that we want to focus on. The two key ones that administration at this time is recommending is the highway corridor or downtown, as that has also been directed from conversations with council. But ultimately, this money will not be spent until council directs administration clearly on how you would like these funds to be utilized. So this will be coming forward in Q2 to council. Yeah, question. Any questions?
Questions? All right, thank you so much for that part of your presentation. You're very busy, very busy. Please continue.
Thank you for noticing, Deputy Mayor. So how council fits in? You guys are the strategic direction. You guys approve all of these different programs and the funding sources attached to it. You give us the guidance on where we run and where we pause, and supporting ECDEV is a long-term investment. So if we go to the next slide of measuring success. So this is how you hold us accountable. We deliver the programs outlined in this presentation. We ensure that we do it within the approved budgets. We continually will report back on progress, challenges when required, bring forward future recommendations, and show progress. One of the other things that will be coming back to council will be determining prioritization of these programs. So an idea that I have, this is obviously something, how we're going to do it specifically is still to be determined, but the gist of what I'm trying to say is we went through all of these programs today and we have one economic development officer. We need to understand from council, out of these programs, what is your top 1, 2, 3 priorities out of the 10? For example, business licensing, we had to update the program because it was not in compliance with our business license bylaw. We also know that we need to update the business license bylaw to get it more into 2026 practices as well as be more efficient. So there's work that has to be done there. However, if council was to say, well, business licensing is actually our lowest priority out of all these programs, and we have an ECDEV officer working January, February every year with most of their time in business licensing, that means that admin is not spending our time where we should be. So this is the goal of coming back to council at a later date to understand where you want us to dive in, so then we can come back, show you the success or not success, and that's how this relationship holds each other accountable. And we can ensure that we're putting the time and effort into the programs that council wants us to in an appropriate amount of time with one staff member. So that's also coming back to council. So a lot of things to come in ECDEV for you guys in 2026. But I just wanted to give you a little teaser about how administration is going about understanding what council's true vision is when it comes to all of these programs and priorities. So, if you go to the next slide, this is ECDEV 101, and that's what it's all about. So, do you have any final questions for administration?
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to administration, we know this is a bid portfolio, and this is a huge priority of this council. I think it was demonstrated in the last council with the development of a economic development department with one person, but we didn't have that before. Like that previous councils didn't have that. So we showed our commitment in that way. And I think this council, when we have our strategic plan, when it's presented, you'll see again that the priority that we're placing in this department. My only question is, I mean, we're working on lots of things, but when we look at investment readiness, it's me thinking about capturing that, I would say, that big fish, that big business, that big industry. We were lucky to capture and have a large industry join Edson this past council term that, will be, our biggest ratepayer and supplies, good paying jobs. Where are we at in terms of trying to sort of capture the next big fish, as it were, and bring that sort of industry to Edson? I know we have to lay some groundwork, but that's the biggest catch, because once you have that industry, you have solid tax base, you have high paying jobs, you have people purchasing homes, which could solve other issues and other areas that you're working on. Just wondering, so progress on that, if any.
We are at the infancy stage of that in this portfolio. As you can see, the local programs have taken a large front seat versus the trying to attract outside investment. Choose Edson website was one of the main drivers of doing that. But also, in order to do this, we need to understand our land better. And I talked about that in the beginning slides of, do we actually have land that could absorb a big fish? So that's step one. And that's something that we'll be looking at in 2026. And if when we go into this prioritization exercise, and that is deemed as, if investment readiness is deemed as a 1 or 2 priority, then that land inventory needs to be moved up on our programs and our priorities, because ultimately, if we go through the exercise and we have, call it 10 pieces of land that we own, and none of them are ready to take on any sort of business over X size, well, then that's going to tell council we aren't investment ready, and we do need to put money into either those lands to be investment ready, or we need to look at other pieces of land, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into being investment ready. But yeah, we are very, very at the infancy stage of that. So.
Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Wilson-Lear?
And just again, for clarification, through the deputy mayor to administration, is there going to, I know in the previous council or committee of the whole meeting, there was talk, and I don't want to quote anyone, I just been thinking about it over the last couple of weeks regarding existing buildings along the highway and downtown as well. And I'm wondering how much of our economic development in terms of encouraging business downtown may or may not be also tied with some sort of living things, maybe in the downtown core or along those highway corridors, in terms of affordable housing or reconstructing some of those brown leaf sort of buildings that are there, just with a focus maybe on the walkability of more of our downtown, kind of combining those two things. And maybe that this is broad for our discussion tonight, as we bring, as you guys are, as administration brings a lot of the things back to us that you've talked about tonight. That maybe is a question for later, but I'm just wondering about thinking outside of the box, particularly with our downtown core, in terms of just not being businesses, but actually having people there that are utilizing those businesses, breweries, coffee shops, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's a possibility downtown. I don't know what buildings exactly would be downtown that maybe a developer would be interested in, and loft stuff. Like, those are all the big ideas of council, right? So anyways, just wanted to kind of put that on the table for your comments.
Thank you. Through the deputy mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lear and the rest of council. So that's a very good question. It's actually something that Mr. Hucken and I briefly talked about today. So there's nothing right now that we are dedicated solely to those storefronts that are empty. However, there are a couple opportunities that maybe businesses don't realize. In 2024, when the land use bylaw got an update, there is now an allowance to have residents above like a storefront business. So if there was an opportunity that someone wanted to expand or develop something, that might create or enhance or increase your walkability. I believe it is a downtown or Main Street revitalization is on the 5-year capital plan for 2028. So that might be an opportunity for council to consider where they want that item.
Seeing no further questions, I'll end by your presentation with saying thank you. You mentioned setting priorities, but I think what I appreciate most is that the groundwork has been laid when we decide on what those priorities are. You're working very hard to make sure that whatever council decides as priorities, you're already started down that road to working on those priorities for us. And so thank you so much for all of your work in those areas. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So we have no closed meeting sessions. And before we adjourn, I'm just going to thank our communications department. We had some technical difficulties. We want to thank them for their hard work. And I will adjourn our meeting at 8:15 p.m.